All right, hey, if you're in the youth group, sit down. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and get started. All right. I'm glad everybody's here tonight. It's good to see everybody. You probably noticed when you came in the little table off to the right. If you were here Sunday, you know that David Fitzsimmons got baptized. David, over here. Yes, David was baptized. And so, as we always do, we have a baptism celebration for him. And what that entails and why we did this, here's a couple of reasons why. So why we have a baptism celebration, I feel like it's really crucial that as a church, as a community, we celebrate milestones together. As a church, we celebrate a lot of milestones when they move up to a certain class, or when you get baptized, or older on later in life, like when you have a kid, or like we celebrate all these things, baby dedication, all that fun stuff. And so this is just another milestone that as a community we get to share in, we get to reflect in, but also tonight we get to pour life into David. And so I hope that you noticed the book out there sitting on the table. I hope that we can fill that whole book up with just encouragement to David, or something that will, maybe something you've learned since you've become a Christian. Or some sort of way that you want to motivate him, or a passage of in the Bible that sticks out, or a quote that sticks out, or something that you've learned in your spiritual journey. Whatever it is, I hope that you will share that with David in his book. After class, we'll have a hot chocolate bar going on, so you're welcome to get some hot chocolate. We got all kinds of marshmallows, candy canes, whipped cream, all that kind of stuff. So you're welcome to enjoy that out there. We'll be serving that after class. And that just serves as a social moment to kind of all come together, hang out with David, speak life into him, and let him know what NPC community is really all about. So what we're going to do is, as we always do, I think, I don't really have much space. The best space would probably be under our 9 square. So for the first time ever, we're going to pray over David under the 9 square. And so, David, if you'll go back there, and the youth group, y'all all start it. Put your hands on David. Everybody can join. Everybody can go stand over there with the youth group and pray with David. Chad's going to pray over David. And then you can catch your seat, and I'll dismiss everybody. So everybody, let's go pray with David.
The longer we take, the less we have to hear a sermon. David, I hope you're still sinless, buddy. We all are. All right, y'all ready? Let's say a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day. Thank you so much for the time that we get to come here and celebrate another person to have been baptized into you. We're just so happy that David has recognized what his purpose is in life, and that it starts with you. We're so happy that all these kids around him, to have him know that they will always have his back forever, and also as well the adults that are surrounding them, that they are not alone and that will always be here. Please bless his life. Please help him to shine a bright light amongst everybody, and let people know that he's baptized, and that's why he's happy. And just thank you so much for everything. In Jesus' name, amen. Back to your seats.
All right. I'll start dismissing classes one by one. Let's see. Nursery and toddlers, We're going to go with Miss Nikki and Miss Taylor. So you can go to the back if you're a nursery/toddler class. All right, pre-K and first grade. You're going to go with Miss Marcy. Pre-K and first grade, you're going to go with Miss Marcy. She's in the back. Follow her to your class. And then second and third grade with Miss Rosemary. Follow Miss Rosemary to your class. And then fourth through sixth grade, you can go with Miss Leslie Jo, Miss Amanda. All right, youth group, let's rock out.
All right, hey, 4 big things I want to remind you about just because we can't remind you enough. Our Cookies with Santa is coming up December 7th, and Brittany's been sending out a ton of social media posts promoting that, and you can kind of see that on social media and click whether you're coming or not. Amanda Jenkins Scott will be taking photos for families, so that should be a good time. So that's December 7th, 3:30 to 5 p.m. And then December 10th, Wednesday night, December 10th, we're doing our annual NPC Christmas caroling, and we're going to meet at the Country Club Village at 6:15 p.m., so don't forget about that. And then there's an ornament exchange and brunch on the morning of Saturday, December 13th for the ladies, and that's at our home, and you can RSVP to Amanda. And then the candlelight service is December 25th. That's December 21st, not Christmas Day. December 21st, and it's a Sunday this year instead of a Wednesday. We usually do it on a Wednesday, but it'll be Sunday evening this year at 5 p.m., and we'll have finger foods and all that stuff at 5, and then come in here for a unique, very good service that we're excited about. So that's December 21st. So December is packed, a lot like October was packed, and it's just rolling. So just wanted to remind you of all those things because those are important things coming up. And if you have questions about them, I'll be happy to try and answer any of them. All right. All right, we're going to continue talking about service tonight. We started this a few weeks back, and you probably don't remember anything that we talked about, which is okay, because these are one-off lessons. They are kind of connected, but not really, because we can talk about service in any regard, in any context. So we're just going to pick up from really where we left off and think about it in 4 different ways. So service is a practice that's expressed in 4 key ways, and they're up here. Love, so it's like aiming our formation out towards others. Hiddenness, you see that there, that's what we're going to talk about tonight, and it's have to do with like serving quietly, doing your deeds unseen, not letting your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Availability, we'll talk about that next time, and kinship, turning strangers into family. So last time we talked about loving others by meeting practical needs. Today I want to talk about hiddenness. So if you got your Bibles, open them up to John chapter 13. John chapter 13. So we'll pick up there in verse 15 in just a second, but I want to kind of set the stage for what's going on here. Jesus, he served at a leper colony and like the seedy street corners. This is where you could find Jesus a lot of the times. He served among the sick. He served among the poor, the oppressed. But I think his most popular act of service and his most popular invitation to service came at his own dinner table, is where it came. And it came among his everyday company, among the people that he's with every single day. And so on his final night between courses at Passover dinner, Jesus gets down on his knees and he washes his disciples' feet. Now, you know this story. You've heard it preached on. You've read it. It's nothing new to you. But I want you to know a little bit more about it. Because culturally speaking, there was no more humiliating task that you could do in Jesus' day than the labor of foot washing. It was menial, it was humiliating, it was very lowly. According to rabbinical tradition, no Israelite person washed the feet of another Israelite person. It was considered degrading for them to do that. Even a Jewish slave wasn't tasked with foot washing. It was given to a Gentile slave. Somebody that wasn't a part of the family had to do a task as low as that. So Jesus didn't, it's not like he just picked a low task. It's not like he just picked a blue collar task. He picked the most degrading, low task reserved for the most humble, low-ranking member of the household. And he did it at Passover dinner. So think about what's going on here and what he's teaching us. Jesus, a Jewish rabbi, he did work that was considered unbecoming of any Jewish person at a sacred meal, especially at a meal like this, where it's highly formal. It's a strictly observed day of rest. It's a day of preparation. It's a day of where things have to be exactly how God has said they should be. And Jesus kind of steps out of that moment and does something that he should not necessarily, according to the people around him, he should not be doing. And here's what he says in verse 15. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Now, that's as a powerful statement as you will find in the Bible. But here's the thing we kind of get hung up on in our modern day churches. We think that foot washing was the point. But foot washing is not the point. We don't wash each other's feet today, do we? Why? Because our feet don't necessarily get dirty. When Jesus told us to do as he had done for us, he didn't mean we should now literally wash each other's feet. It's a highly contextual text relevant to a particular place and time where people wore open-toed sandals, where they walked everywhere, they were on dirt roads. And so he's not saying that you now need to wash each other's feet. Foot washing was simply an act of service. It's the expression of Christ-like love through meeting the practical needs of another. And that's the point. That's the point that Jesus is pushing. freely giving the love of Jesus that I've freely received by practically meeting the needs of someone else. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. And so Jesus didn't take his disciples to the leper colony to wash feet, saying, do you see what I'm doing for them? I've set an example that you should do the same. What Jesus did is he sat at his own dinner table with the people that are always around him, and he washed the feet of his closest followers, his most familiar friends, his most ordinary company at his own dinner table among his tight-knit, everyday relationships. And so I think about this, and then I think about my life and maybe the mindset that we have as 21st century Christians. I remember examples of my dad. My dad is a very giving dude. Like, I've always known that about my dad. Even though I didn't get to be close to him or with him growing up the majority of my life, every time I was with my dad, he was typically finding some way to serve someone. And he did this on purpose. There were times, especially around this time of year, my dad would buy 20 or 30 country hams, which I'm sure was not a cheap endeavor. And we would go, and we'd go around to some older people's homes that my dad had gotten to know in the community that he knew were alone, usually widows or widowers, and we would take them a country ham. And as a 10-year-old, this was like torture for me. You know, it's like, we're going to go in here, we're going to meet Mr. Bob, or whatever his name was, and we're going to sit with him a little bit. We're going to give him a country ham. And my dad forced me and my brother, and he only had every other weekend with us, but he spent his time with us, forming in us and shaping in us the necessity and the need to serve other people. And we would sit for a good hour and a half, talking to these older men that we had never met in our lives and serving them. And I think in a lot of our minds, like, these are kind of the examples that we jump to when we think about Christianity. Like, it has to be somewhere else. How can I go to Haiti and serve? How can I go to Honduras? How can I do these big things? How can I go to Jackson House? Or we think of things like this, like, I need to go to the streets and I need to find a homeless person and I need to serve their needs. And that's all great. Like a soup kitchen, a rehab program, a third world village, whatever. Don't get me wrong, it can be that. But most of us tend to imagine service to be practiced among people we don't know, in environments we aren't currently in. But it's worth noting that Jesus grounded service in ordinary places and among everyday relationships. Think about this. So the office of the CEO of your company, the kitchen of the stay-at-home parent, the classroom of the high school student, the studio of the designer or the artist, the shared living room in a college dorm, a dinner table of a family or a married couple. Jesus is grounding the most sweeping, glorious of promises in the most common, ordinary places and ordinary company by humbly taking up ordinary service and telling his disciples to do the same thing. And for me, at least, that serves as both a comfort and like a confrontation. It's a challenge. Because the truth is, I think most of us, we're better at doing big things. We're better at doing projects of love rather than becoming people of love. I'm better at, like, once a year going somewhere, third world country maybe, and serving there. I can check it off my list. I'm better at, like, maybe once a year taking country hams around to widows and widowers, checking it off my list. All great things, rather than becoming a person who is constantly serving. So what do you think Jesus is getting at? What's the truth here, given the context of where he's serving and who he's serving? How does that challenge you? Talk to me a little bit. Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a mindset shift for sure. And have you ever been frustrated at somebody in traffic, Matt, and you realize you've been in the same spot they've been in, you've dealt with the same struggle that they've dealt with, or you don't have a clue what's going on in their day, right? Yeah, it's definitely becoming.
But I've done the same thing to other drivers.
Right.
I pull out in front of people. I've done those things.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw somebody tonight driving around with their headlights off, and it frustrated me. And I was flashing my lights at them, like, dummy, turn your lights. And I thought, I've driven around with my headlights off 1,000 times when I've been in town when the street lights are on, you know. How does this context of serving every day, right where you are, taking the lowliest position, how does this challenge you in your life right now? Like, what's this mean to you? What questions are Jesus asking you through setting this example of foot washing? Yeah, Melissa.
One thing that came to mind is that he also washed Jesus' feet.
Yeah.
You know, whether a work situation or a family, there's maybe people that are harder to love, and Jesus loved them all just the same.
Oh, yeah. It's everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's welcome at that table,
Yeah.
and everybody gets their feet washed. That's a great perspective. So maybe you have a coworker that you will not serve, right? It's harder to.
Yeah, we just, maybe don't try as hard. Some people are easier just to bless.
Right.
To be around. And it's being intentional about those that aren't.
Yeah. It's almost like you need to be more intentional about serving the person that you don't like or doesn't like you than even those who love you, right? What good does it do you if you bless those who love you? What else? What challenges does this context throw at you? I'll share the questions that Comer proposes. Trey? Right. Yeah. Right. Mhm. Mm. That's right. It's just layer after layer after layer, isn't it? And you named those perfectly, Trey. And just this you can't do anything else beneath what I've done. I remember being in Haiti one year with the college kids, and the Haitian sewer system, I might have talked about it before, but it just runs down the side of the street. It's open. There's no sewer system. It's a drain down the side of the street. And so all the pipes flowing out of the restrooms run to a concrete drain that is open, that flows down the side of the street. You can imagine the smell. If you've ever been there, you don't have to imagine the smell. One of our tasks for the week was to clean the grass and muck out of the sewer drainage behind the children's home. You think, how many college kids do you think volunteered for that task? One. And he was like 6'3", big tall guy, willing to do anything. And I love that guy. But anyways, that's not lower than what Jesus is doing here socially. And you're right, like you can't, just the idea of serving your enemy, doing it every day, you can't go lower. It's just huge when you think about it. So here's the questions that Comer presents. He says, can I love my wife with the same attentiveness and care as a hungry stranger that I feed on the I feed on the side of the streets, like when I come home and I'm tired later at night. So that's a question. Our everyday table, the people we're around every day. Am I going to devote that same kind of care and attention? You know, I can go to Haiti, I can serve, I can have these big moments, I can be intentional, but am I going to devote that same service to the people closest to me? Can I love my kids with every bit as much intention as I do at the shelter later on at bedtime when they're testing my patience, he says? Can I serve my coworkers tomorrow morning with a foot washing of sorts, of selfless love in the midst of a busy agenda? Can I move slowly enough through my life to notice my wife as we go through our busy schedules? And then he says, can I move slowly enough through my life to notice a lady he helped on the streets named Evelyn? He said, to notice Evelyn if I pass by her on the sidewalk tomorrow. And so it's the everyday things. It's the normal things. It's Jesus washes the feet of the people he loves most in the world, the people that he spends every day with, walking and going to different homes and going to different areas. Like, these guys have to get on his nerves at times. And he's setting an example of service to the people closest to you. He says, the challenge is this: can I drag that way of being that I learn on the margins bit by bit back into the ordinary? And so the idea is, my dad taught me to serve in big ways, and I know why he took me as a kid, and I do the same things with my kids, and you probably do with your kids. You set examples for them, and you take them to certain places to show them how important that is. But can you drag that lesson, what you did on the margins, back into the everyday ordinary? He says the whole point of intentional environments of service is to become people of love in ordinary environments of everyday life. And so that means, for most of us, this practice of service will not begin by choosing an environment or a new environment to serve marginalized people, but actively choosing a current environment to serve familiar people. Spouses, co-workers, kids, friends, siblings, whatever it may be. He says, what if to the circumstances of your life at present, like what if the present circumstances, what opportunities are there, or what obligations are there? And he says, it can only come if you pay attention to it and if you choose it. And so it's this idea of, like, if you resist being involved and buying in and pouring into the everyday duties of life and kind of opting out and sitting out, it's like you've missed the point of what Jesus is talking about here, right? Brandon, you raising your hand.
Yeah, I just think, just speaking for me personally, but I think that if this isn't, like, some people are born with, I think, the ability to look out for others and to serve other people. I have it to an extent and don't have it, in other facets of my life, I would say. And so, for me to have that mindset, it's important to how I start my day, right? If I don't consciously think about serving other people throughout the day, and I don't pray about it in the morning or meditate on it or whatever, if I just go throughout my day in a default mode, you're just on cruise control, and you're not either you're not going to notice the opportunities that God presents you, or you're not going to step into the opportunities that God presents to you. And I think that sometimes it's hard for me because you don't, it's almost a fake it till you make it, but it's not. It's like you're creating a habit because it's not natural, and so you kind of have to go out of your normal tendencies
Right.
to create that. And I heard something not too long ago that was it made so much sense, but like
Yeah, I think it's definitely important, and that's really good stuff. And I think it's definitely important to get your mindset right and to pray about it and to have your eyes open for those opportunities. I think by default, we're thinking about ourselves every day, and we're thinking about what we got to get done. We're thinking about where we got to be next. We have a list, a to-do list. This is how I operate. And once I get that list done, then I got to go do something else, or then I got to go pick kids up or drop kids off, or we got to be somewhere. This is how our days operate. And we forget to look for these opportunities. But they're all around us. They're all around us. Comer says this. He says, if we resist the hidden duties of everyday life, caring for young children or aging parents, mowing the lawn or cooking dinner with or for the family, we will grow more bitter and resentful in those very environments and relationships. You see where he's pulling your mind? If you don't see the opportunity and the beauty, if you're not invested in the everyday moments, then we're always looking for the next big thing. We're always looking for the next Honduras or the next Jackson House Day, whatever. And Jesus is calling us to something very different. It's very similar to your talk this past Sunday. Those moments that are holy moments, really. He says, but if we consent to them, the ordinary people and places of our everyday become the furnace of our spiritual formation. He says, bathing your 2-year-old and reading them a story before bed becomes a spiritual practice. I love that thought. Doing the dishes your roommate left in the sink, or we could say our spouse left in the sink, becomes a spiritual practice. Have you thought about it that way? Like you're washing feet in a way by like taking your cloth off, taking your towel off, bending down and doing work to serve your spouse or to serve your kids. It says visiting your aging mother and listening to her without multitasking becomes a spiritual practice. What if the conditions of your ordinary life, as it is today, are the perfect conditions through which God can bring heaven to earth? If you see these opportunities and you take these opportunities, the idea that God can bring heaven to earth in your everyday, mundane, menial task, he can bring heaven to earth through you and in you simultaneously. And so I love this thought because I've never heard it talked about this way until I read this, and just the idea of Jesus is serving those that he spends every moment with. And this is the biggest act of service that we see him do. This is the most talked about, the premier example of his service. And he says, I'm setting an example. I want you to do as I'm doing. Does this highlight anything in your mind that you see an area where you could serve in every day that you want to share? Yeah, Trey. Right. really does. And what you're saying is huge. And I think every person in here that's in a relationship knows how big that is. Hopefully you see those moments. You feel those moments. I think your family is your biggest ministry by far. The people closest to you are your biggest ministry by far. And if you neglect them for some other big ministry, you've missed the boat. You missed the point of bringing heaven to earth. I was talking to a minister yesterday, actually. He called me up. He's got all these big, grand ideas he wanted to run by me. I was like, man, those are great. And I asked him, I was like, how much time are you spending with your kids? And he just, not much. Like, dude, you're missing it. Like, you missed. You're trading. Like you just said, Trey, your family's getting the leftovers. And my family got the leftovers for a long time. And I learned my lesson real quick. Like, don't do that. I don't care what you do. Don't do that. Has your spouse ever said to you, I'm getting a little sidetracked here, but has your spouse ever said to you, man, I just feel disconnected from you? Men, has your wife ever said that to you? Like, I just feel disconnected from you. That's something my wife has said to me on occasion, and it's because she's getting the leftovers. And so it's like, I'm not serving her. I'm not thinking about serving her. I'm not investing, and I'm not present in that moment. And Jesus is giving us an example to be very present with the people around us. One more thing I want to talk about. This right here, Matthew chapter 6, 2 through 4. Somebody read it for us.
So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets to be honored by others. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret.
All right, so this phrase, give to the needy, like, it's a very important word in the Greek. It gets translated in a rough way from Greek to English. But back in the day, it was translated almsgiving, which I think is a better translation. Because it's not just about giving money. It includes that, but it's a wide semantic range, right? And so it's about more than just giving money. We hear that and we think in English, when you give money to the person on the side of the road or whatever, but it's everything from your tithing to like serving in a nonprofit in your city to mentoring a fatherless child. Like it's all encompassing. In other words, it's not just giving your money, but your resources, your time, your life. You're stewarding all that has been given freely on behalf of others. And so it includes generosity, but it's broad. It's closer to what we call service. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets. So on one level, that's obviously hyperbole. No one actually announced their charitable donations with a trumpet, like, look at what I'm giving. Nobody did that. But this critique is more pointed than you think, because the giving box in the Jewish temple was made out of a ram's horn. And so it was similar to the shofar, the instrument used in worship. The giving box was made out of similar material, if not the same material. And what he's getting at here, to the fact that, money was only in the form of coins back then. They didn't have dollar bills or anything like that. No plastic cards you could swipe, just coins. And so when you gave, you could quietly place your coins in this giving box, this ram's horn, and it wouldn't make any noise. But what you would also see is you would see these bigwigs come through with big handfuls of coins, and they ding, 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 ding. Brrr. You see what he's saying? When you give, don't make a big show out of it. And so that was kind of the preferred entrance of the people into the temple. Is like, we're big givers. Ding, 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 ding. It's like you win the lottery as you walk through the door or something, And so the wealthy, this is how they would do. Now, we think that's kind of comical when you think that's just silly. We wouldn't do that. But we still do this in our own ways. We still We still announce it with trumpets in our own ways. The wealthy put their names on buildings today. That's how we do it. Big donations come with perks and public recognition. Like, we find ways to weave our virtuous deeds into our social media feeds and our conversations. We find ways to tell people about what we've done. I even find myself doing it with sermons. I'll tell you what I've done, and I'm not doing that intentionally. I just have to talk about something, so I have to talk. But we find ways to weave this. And so what Jesus is saying, when you give to the needy, don't announce it with trumpets as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets to be honored by others. Truly, I tell you, they've received their reward. They wanted recognition. That's what they got. But when you give to the needy, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. What between you and God is just between you and God? Where do you serve that nobody else except the person you serve knows about? How are you pouring out and pouring into the people nearest to you that only they know about? I mean, you think about, we have secrets with our spouses, we have secrets with our friends. Do you have any secrets with God? Is there anything that only you and God know about? What if you started volunteering, like at a local food pantry once a month, and you didn't tell a soul? Like, nobody knew about it. Or what if you anonymously sent a check to someone in our community who you think might need it? You don't even know if they need it. You're not even going to ask them. You just write them a check and send it to them. Only God knows about that because you didn't, right? Like, you didn't tell a soul. What if you cleaned out your closet and gave away a few nice garments? Because if you've got 2 cloaks, give one to someone else who doesn't have one. What if you willingly chose to be slightly less fashionable to clothe those who don't have clothing? What if you started keeping some secrets with God, the good kind? Jesus concludes, and I love the way this is concluded. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. And so there's this secret relationship between you and God. It's like He will reward you. And so maybe we're a little uncomfortable with like this secret divine reward system, but it's you don't have to make it weird. It's just God is going to reward you because you're a good steward of what He's given you. And those who are good stewards with what they have been given will be given more. And so it's kind of this idea here of our giving and our service doesn't have to be this grand, big trips, these big to-dos, these big teaching lessons, these big moments of, oh, let's make our name known, let's make National Park's name known, all of these different things. The true life-giving, heaven-coming to earth moments are in your everyday activities. How you handle what you've been given, how you treat your spouse, how you treat your kids, how you treat your friends and your coworkers. What are some ways that you can look at Jesus' example and go and do as He did? Any thoughts, questions, comments? Yeah. don't think there's not a conflict at all, Kim. You do both, right? There's both. There's always the big things. There's things you do that you can't hide. Like Adam can't hide going to Honduras because Steve posted about it, right? And then I shared it, and whatever. Like Adam may not want that recognition, but I agree. I want people to see what one of our elders is doing. When we went to Honduras, I wanted everybody to see, not for glory for us, I want them to know what we're involved in. And we do that with National Park all the time, and we do that with, you do that with things you're involved in. Like that's the let your good works be seen before men so that they will glorify your Father in heaven. God be praised for what you've done. It's not my strength, it's not your strength, it's God's strength. But again, back to the question of, do you have secrets with God? Because you need secrets with God too. You need to be serving in these hidden ways because it's not just about these big moments, it's about this is the person you are. Have you written checks that only God knows about? I hope so. Because it's both. It's not either or, it's both, in my opinion. Trey. True. It's true. It's huge. And it's again, it's both. It's both.
People are going to want to, we're going to do things, like you said, that people are going to know and they're going to celebrate it, and that's awesome, but that's not what it is.
Right.
God's not doing it to get recognition. He was starting to do it, and no one would ever know, and he would feel so much joy out of that. So I think the point is just being able to do something for somebody to see them joy, whether they know you did it or not.
Absolutely. What else? I find it interesting that we just talked about John 4, John the Baptist saying, I must become less. And if you were paying attention to the Sunday, you realized he can't become greater. Or as you make him greater, you become less. That's the pattern there. And you remember the text says, so that my joy will be complete. And what Trey's getting at is this whole idea of your joy, true joy, becomes complete the less you become. The more foot washing you do, and the more giving you do, and the more serving in secret and in public, the more you do. It feels good to help somebody and everybody knows about it, right? That feels good. It feels really good to do it and only you and God know about it. But your joy, that's the only thing in life that will bring you true joy, is loving God and loving other people. Like John the Baptist will have his head severed from his body for following Christ. And he says, my joy will be complete in eventually, like in doing this. It blows my mind. Like that is the path to true joy. And we just don't believe it. We don't believe it. We still pursue joy in so many other ways. And yet just time after time, Scripture, especially Jesus, is pointing us in this direction. Other thoughts? We got like 1 minute. And then we're going to go celebrate David. Don't burn 1 minute. Yeah,
No, I
Chad.
was going to say, I know I'm going to be that guy.
Okay.
I do think that, a cool part about this story that was earlier, and even like when Jesus gets his feet kind of washed by the lady's tears in her hair, is that, a lot of times we don't want people to serve us.
Right.
Either. But like you said earlier, it's not the, I'm okay because I have food, shelter, I can't get served, but I could get served by a waiter.
that's big. Even though he said, I came not to be served, but to serve, he still allowed a lot of people to serve him. His disciples served him in various ways. And obviously the woman with the oil served him. Yeah, that's kind of a hang-up of ours, is we refuse people the opportunity to bless us, which we should never do that. We should take that blessing. And I've told y'all this story before. We were in Zambia, and we were, this village, this tribal village, they slaughtered their only cow, the only cow they had, to feed our group. And we told Angie, the local Zambian that we came with, that went to college with us, we were like, we can't eat their food. And the statement she said stuck with me forever. She said, you will suffer the kindness of this lady. And I was like, ouch. Like, sometimes it hurts to be served. Like, it hurts to have a good deed done to you, but it brought that lady more joy. And it was a higher honor to her than it ever would have been for us to refuse it or to say, no, that's your food, we're good. It brought her way more joy, and God blessed her way more than we ever could have blessed her through giving her another cow, right? That sacrifice was her 2 mites, and it was a huge blessing for her. She was blessed more that day than we were, and that statement has stuck with me forever. You will suffer the kindness, and we were, us Americans, we're kind of taken back, like, whoa. And so it's allowing people to do that for you, and Jesus sets the example for that. All right. One secret act this week.
Hey, Boo,
Yeah.
on that, when we refuse service, are we doing the same thing that Peter did? It's almost, when I've done it in the past, I refuse service, I'm almost saying, no.
No. Yeah.
And we're robbing those people, but also we're elevating ourselves.
Correct. No, that's a great thought. It is, yeah. That's essentially what Peter's saying. Like, no, I'll wash your feet. Like, let me do it for you.
Let me be served.
Correct, yeah. And Jesus is like, no, you don't understand. Yeah. Good thought. Hey, one secret act of kindness this week. You got 2 days left. Well, actually 4. What's something you can do in your everyday life to bless somebody around you that's just between you and God? Just between you and God. Think about it. Don't let me know. I don't want to know. All right, bye.